The member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. As a member of the Parliamentary Joint Select Committee on Gambling Reform, I rise to speak on the fifth report, the Advertising and Promotion of Gambling Services in Sport, Broadcasting Services Amendment and Advertising for Sports Betting Bill 2013. As someone who has sat during the life of this 43rd Parliament through a number of public hearings and committee hearings dealing with the issue of gambling, I must say that I am concerned by the pervasiveness of the gambling industry and the negative impact gambling is having on the lives of many Australians. As a committee, one of the first issues we dealt with related to that of pokies, and with 600,000 Australians currently playing pokies on a weekly basis. That is a large number, but of that number, 90,000 or 15% are deemed to be problem gamblers. While I firmly believe that the mandatory commitment proposal initially put forward by the government was not the answer, certainly more can be done in the area of counselling and support services for those who have a gambling problem. And as for the member for Denison, Andrew Wilkie, the chair of this committee, and the person who had a personal signed commitment from the Prime Minister to introduce mandatory commitment, he has every right to feel aggrieved, as the Prime Minister dudded him, breaking her solemn promise in the face of political expediency. The issue of gambling advertising in sport is somewhat different to pokies. Not confined to the pubs and the clubs, it has taken over our footy fields and is having a detrimental effect on our young. Sport-loving children today talk about their teams in terms of odds and margins, sometimes motivated more by the lure of a bet than their loyalty to the game. In fact, the committee heard, and it's reported in our report on page 9, that young people are at risk, particularly susceptible to gambling advertising. And we quoted the 2010 Productivity Commission report, which looked at Canadian research, which found that 42% of youth reported that gambling advertisements made them want to try gambling, and that 11% of males and 3% of females sometimes or often gambled after seeing an advertisement. And the Victorian Responsible Gaming Foundation agreed that these levels of gambling advertising had had a negative impact on children, saying that their research shows that children under 11 have difficulty distinguishing differences between advertising and program content. In particular, children under 10 have difficulty understanding the persuasive intent in advertising. Certainly, the use of sports personalities and media personalities to promote gambling means that young children have a difficulty in distinguishing between what is marketing material and what is neutral content. And those details are found in our report and do highlight some of the issues that we face. Today, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, no football ground or scoreboard, no team jumper or jersey, no television or radio broadcast is immune from the pervasiveness of gambling advertising in sport. In fact, the line has in some instances become blurred between sports betting, advertising and sports commentary itself. Gambling in sport is no longer just about a friendly punt, which we would all in this place happily endorse, but it has become a multi-million, in some cases billion-dollar industry. Indeed, personally, I find it so frustrating to turn on the television on a Friday night to watch a game, or when it comes around to Brownlow night to watch the vote, to find oneself bombarded with gambling advertising. It detracts from the game or Brownlow night as a form of entertainment, let alone the greater harm that it has the potential to cause. What is more, gambling in sport has the real potential to threaten the integrity of the game itself. And my colleague and friend, the member for Bennelong, a great champion tennis player, is in the House with me right now, and he would know all too well that international experience has shown that the integrity of sports of all kinds can be threatened by too much gambling. And in Australia, we do not want to go down this path. Therefore, we as legislators from both sides of the House have a responsibility to rectify the situation and to do it as soon as possible. The community expects us. Indeed, I have many constituents who have raised this issue, young and old alike. And more importantly, we should expect it of ourselves. That is why there is a recommendation in this report that we review the self-regulatory action being taken by the industry. For if they do not make the appropriate changes with regard to gambling, advertising and sport, then legislative action should follow. This was the position first taken by the Leader of the Opposition, Tony Abbott, and which has been followed by the Prime Minister and her government. A bit of catch-up politics. In the words of Tony Abbott, and I quote, "We are natural deregulators, not regulators. But when you've got a significant social nuisance, I think it's important for government to at least be prepared to step in. It is just wrong that kids be learning about gambling before they are learning about the game. The game should be about performances, not about whether you might quickly make $10 by guessing who scores the first goal or whether a team gets a particular score by half-time." Therefore, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, I strongly welcome the decision by the broadcast networks in Australia to ban live odds during play. But the Coalition has sent a clear message. If the industry itself does not act before the September election, then the Coalition has indicated its readiness to legislate a ban. I see this change as being important, but also a first step, because I believe in time the community will demand of our Parliament that we take further steps. In conclusion, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker, this is an important report which I believe has helped inform the debate. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Secretariat, including Committee Secretary Lynn Beverley, Principal Research Officer Natasha Rakowski, Administrative Officers Ruth Edwards and Lauren Carnival for their hard work and professionalism during the life of this 43rd Parliament. I would also like to thank the other members of the committee, including the Chair, the member for Denison, and his Deputy, the member for Canberra, and my Coalition colleague and friend on the committee, the member for Moncrieff. I'm sure I speak for many on the committee when I say that having been a member of this committee has provided me with the opportunity to learn much. As in, I see the issue of gambling in sport as being a vitally important topic to our community. Today, as in the future, these topics around gambling and gambling in sport, more specifically, will require the vigilance of this Parliament and subsequent Parliaments and the best judgment of its members. Thank you.
I thank the member for Kooyong.